Hi everybody, Carl from AllBallsNoBull. Today we're here with my friend David Scrivens. David is a scout for the Red Sox, and we're actually going to do a series with David. We're going to do a lot of interesting things. We're going to actually follow him around when the weather is warm and watch him go through a day of scouting. And we're going to talk about some evaluations that he does on players. I want to start with Dave. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do personally, and also want to get into what does a scout do and what are the different levels of scouting?
Sure.
Start with just tell us some stuff about yourself.
Yeah, so the past 4 years I've been a part-time scout with the Red Sox. My main responsibilities are to scout the independent leagues, as well as to help out with high school and college coverage. There's a bunch of layers of scouting. The initial layer is the bird dog or associate scout, who that's an unpaid thing, and those guys are hired to work for a full-time scout in most cases, sometimes a part-time scout. There are part-time scouts who also work for an area scout, and then the full-time area scout generally has a region of the country. In this part,
I've heard as many as like 8 states. Is that true?
That's true. That's true. It depends on the size of the state, and in this part of the country, it might be New England, New York, and New Jersey might be a full-time area. For some teams, it might be greater than that. And then those full-time scouts report to cross-checkers, whether they're regional cross-checkers, national cross-checkers. Most teams have 2 to 4 national cross-checkers, and some teams have anywhere from 4 to 12 regional cross-checkers as well.
You know, one of the reasons, this is what we want to get to the truth of this, because there are people that call themselves scouts, and you want to have a correct application of what that means. You know, is it a part-time, is it an associate? But a lot of guys that do the so-called bird dog thing, there are some guys, I know, I've known guys that are retired guys,
Yep.
you know, and they just like baseball, so they'll kind of go around to games and things like this. But this is a job for you. Right. And do you mind if I ask 2 things? How did you get into it? And do you have aspirations? Do you personally want to be a full-time guy?
I started out as an associate scout for about 11 years.
Wow.
First with Colorado, and how I got into that was just by going to games, mainly in the New England Collegiate League, scouting players, writing reports, and then sending those packets to all the 30 clubs.
Wow. And
then through that, got a few interviews, and it worked out where I worked with Colorado. As far as what I want to do, right now I'm just happy doing this part-time. Maybe down the road, possibly a full-time thing.
I understand. You and I made, do you know Kevin Morton by chance?
Yep.
Kevin's a friend of mine, and when Kevin quit playing, he told me, whether it's accurate or not, he told me that, and he opted to go into private industry. He works for Con Air. But he had like a 12-year pro career, and he was considering going into the Mets organization, and he said that that's often, and they do an executive program. Mm-hmm. And what they often do is start them as scouts. Can you tell us something about that?
I don't know a lot about that leadership program, but I know it's run out of Major League Baseball's headquarters. Major League Baseball does run a scout school out in Arizona in late September, early October. It's a 2-week program. Each team can sponsor 2 or 3 scouts, and it's a development program. Most teams sponsor somebody that they want to hire full-time, but give them some training first, or some teams might bring an associate scout that they want to make part-time, or a part-time guy that they want to make full-time. So it's just development and training, and Major League Baseball Scouting Bureau runs that. All of their scouts do the actual teaching and instruction there.
I want to kind of get back to that, because I think it's very important for our audience out here to really have an understanding of what you're looking for. And I want to be real definitive about that, because I think that there is a mythology that's not true. You brought up the term independent ball. And some of our viewers may not know what that means. Can you tell them what that means?
Sure. So the independent leagues are not affiliated with Major League Baseball in any way, nor do they receive any funding or anything like that. They're kind of on their own. There is a general umbrella of all the independent baseball leagues.
What is that organization?
I believe it's just called the National Independent Baseball Leagues. But those leagues fluctuate a little bit from year to year with the amount of teams each league has. Teams like the Atlantic League is pretty stable, the Frontier League is stable. The Can-Am fluctuates every year with the amount of teams. The American Association does the same. And sometimes there's an unbalanced schedule or an odd number of teams, or maybe even a travel team to get the numbers.
Yeah, there's a team locally, the Road Warriors.
Right.
Right. They're an independent team, but they are strictly a travel team. Right?
Yeah. But the challenges in independent league baseball, every year there's new challenges, whether it's getting ballparks or financial challenges or scheduling challenges. But that's what makes it unique. It's often a very, very high level of baseball, isn't it? I mean, this league here, I go to many games. I have friends that play in that league. You and I both have friends. We have friends in administrative management positions, and there's a huge number of players that filter in and out of these leagues that have been major league stars, and they will go back. I saw Ricky Henderson playing this league. I've seen Jose Canseco, holy mackerel, just really terrific players. Yeah, the Atlantic League, for example, a lot of teams in a given year might have 10 to 12 guys that have played in the big leagues on their roster, and some of those guys will get back into the big leagues at some point. But a lot of guys in the league could play AA or AAA right now, so it's just a matter of them getting an opportunity where a specific organization has a specific need and that player fits that.
So these independent leagues are an opportunity to not only get reps, right? Get innings, get at bats, and keep your skills sharp rather than going home and sitting on the couch, and also to be seen. Am I correct? Sure.
And the Atlantic League, I think, just celebrated its 15th season this last year, so it's reputable. And guys that are getting at bats or innings pitched, the quality of competition is pretty good.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
So
it's phenomenal.
Whether it's a AA or AAA equivalent, it's easier when you see guys playing against a higher level of competition to make an evaluation.
To be honest with you, I've actually heard a lot of executives refer to the Atlantic League specifically as a 4A league. It's not. Because there are so many guys that have had major league experience playing on these teams that it's really high, really high.
Right.
So let's jump back. I deal with college baseball a lot, and as you know and I know, what the industry really is, and by the industry I'm talking about our viewers also, they're largely kids. One last point is that one of the things that really is prevalent through baseball is not can you play, but can you play at this level? Somebody may be a great high school player, but they don't project to being a college player. So can you talk specifically, what I'd like you to talk about is projection development, character, and also what are some of the barometers you're looking for when you scout a player?
Yeah, so there's definitely, projection is huge. Depending on the level that we're scouting, whether it's high school, college, minor league, major league, the amount of projection changes. So it's the younger you are, the more projection there is. The guys that are, let's say, AA or AAA, there's less projection because they're further along in their careers. The way colleges and high school players are scouted varies only because there's more risk for drafting a high school player, but potentially more upside. The college player might be more, more conservative pick in the draft.
I do know that there was one year that I did follow it, something like 25 out of the first picks were college players, because they look at, and it's maturity as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just physicality, it's not just athleticism,
right.
it's maturity.
It is, and it's also the caliber of the competition too. So if a college player has played 4 years or 3 years against, the best collegiate programs in the nation, that gives a lot better gauge to possibly forecast performance than it would a high school player playing against high school
right.
competition. The same goes for, let's say, a Division I strong program versus a Division III program facing weaker competition.
Can I interrupt you there for a second? This is one of the big things I do. I apologize for interrupting, but I do want you as a scout to talk about that differentiation. One of the things that I face with college players that come to me is that I understand the athletic psyche. You want to nurture this. You want the kid to feel good about himself. Well, I'm a Division I player. And sometimes it is strictly his physicality. A lot of kids drop out, they don't quit. But that same kid, if he went to a D2, D3, he would be allowed to, don't you agree?
Sure.
Be allowed to mature
Sure.
and develop that talent.
The tricky part is figuring out, what caliber player you are, if you're a player or
right.
a parent or whatever, and then figuring out, at what level am I gonna play? Do I want to go to a Division I school and sit?
Right.
And then maybe a year later be unhappy, transfer out, lose credits, lose a year of eligibility, or do I want to go to maybe a Division II or III program that I can play at, get a good education?
So the key, correct me if I'm wrong, the key is development, having a chance to play, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the trick is finding a college program where you're going to develop and you're going to get the instruction and the weightlifting and the nutritional stuff, and everything's going to go together, not just the actual on the field, but all the preparation that goes on off the field, that there's a good plan in place and that the program has some history of developing its players and sending them on to play beyond college.
See, I hope everybody out there is hearing how many times he's using the word development and instruction, correct? Okay, because baseball is that game where the key to it is the B word, is getting better. If you really have those aspirations, I mean even at the high school level,
sure.
You need to be in programs that serve you to get better. What I'd like you to talk about is when you're a professional scout, what are the character issues that you look for? And I mean desire, work ethic, intelligence, instinct.
Right.
How much do those factors factor in what you're looking at in a player?
It does a lot, because on the development side, you want somebody that wants to get better and put in the work to get better. So if the player's not going to put in the work, or let's say has little desire to get better, it's all going to be counterproductive.
Do you know who Rick Wolf is?
Yes.
I know Rick. I'm going to try to get him involved in this.
Yeah.
I actually had a little conversation with him last week, and Rick was at a symposium last week, and he spoke. I mean, there was several hundred people there, and he said you have to have two ingredients to be an elite athlete. You have to have some talent, and you have to have desire. He said he said, I'm not saying what the percentage is. Have to have both.
Right.
Now, have you ever had players where you actually turn them aside because you see that? The lack of that stuff?
More so on the talent side, but as far as some of the other stuff, it factors in for sure. The evaluation of that stuff is tricky though, because you've got to be positive that you have a good read on a player. Some players, maybe you get a bad read, you go to a game and maybe they don't run out a couple of ground balls, for example, so you start to wonder what's going on. maybe you watch a few more games and you figure out maybe they weren't healthy, maybe there was something else going on. So sometimes it takes a little digging and trying to get after things that maybe don't make sense to the naked eye.
I talked to a scout, I don't know if this is true or not, you have the evaluation sheets. I talked to a scout one time and he said that one of the things that he looks at, and he said every scout is just how a kid dresses. You know, do they take themselves seriously? A kid that walks on the field, has got his hat back where his shirt is hanging out, you know, he's not taking himself seriously, he's not taking the game seriously.
You hear all the time, scouts will say, hey, I went to see a high school player and I watched the team get off the bus and I wanted to see how the player was gonna, if they're gonna be serious, if they, you know, were dressed appropriately, you know, what were their interactions with their teammates like. Some guys will talk to teachers, coaches, guidance counselors, people in the community to get a read on that.
Well, sure, because you're not just it's not just a sporting event for you guys, it's a business, it's an investment you're making in this player.
Right, it is an investment, and you know, we want to make sure that the investments are they're worthy of,
give you a return.
Yeah, right.
This is pertaining to an offensive player. I'm going to just read you some of this stuff and ask you if you have standards for this stuff. Running speed, these are common evaluations. Running speed, hitting for average, power potential, hands on defense, I imagine positioning on the ball, things like that. So instincts, throwing arm, proper hitting mechanics, ability to make adjustments, mental makeup, and but here's another, ability to make consistent contact.
Yeah.
Okay, can you let's just start with running speed. Is there a standard you're looking for in that?
You know, most teams have a general scale where they're grading guys down the line on a hit ball. So from the right side, anything 4.3 or faster is average or to above average. 4.2 from the left side, and then it kind of adjusts. The grade adjusts every 1/10 of a second slower or faster. Anything 4.0 from the right side or 3.9 from the left side is considered outstanding. Anything from the right side, about 4.5 or below is considered weak. 4.4.
Which you might have, for instance, a guy with a lot of power, that there would be a trade-off.
Every player too kind of profiles out at a certain position. So historically, certain positions that are power positions are not running speed type positions where you're going to get home run power. You're probably not going to get speed. Positions where you get strong defense and arm strength, you usually don't get the offense at those positions. And the guys that do are those premium type.
Now, do you look at, you know, in football, the combines are made a very big deal of, you know, where these guys do just basically display their athleticism. And there are guys that literally make millions of dollars for themselves in their contracts. They upgrade themselves by preparing themselves specifically for those athletic, you know, I think they do a box drill, they do a 40, they do vertical, they do standing broad. Are there equivalency tests in baseball at all?
Yeah, there are some showcases, but nothing to that extent where all the teams, in baseball, a lot of the teams will work out players, let's say before the draft. Well, that's more individual teams that do that. You know, for college players or high school players trying to play college baseball, there's various showcases. The tricky part with that is sometimes a big college program might come in to scout one of these showcases, might see a player one day perform really well and maybe over value or over evaluate what that player can do based on one day, and sometimes might throw a lot of money at that player the player might commit to that school, and then once the player gets to that school, the coach realizes they over-evaluated that player and didn't get a good read on them, and that's where then the player isn't playing, they transfer, they lose credits.
I'm not opposed in theory, but I am opposed to currently what the practice is with a lot of these showcases. I mean, if you just do the math, I mean, you get 300 kids at a weekend
Right.
showcase for $400 a piece. Do the math.
Yep.
Let's talk specifically about showcases just a little bit. I know that even though you deal with the professional game, you know what goes on. I'm not, in theory, opposed to showcases, but I am currently what they become is just money machines.
Yeah.
You know, let's go in our area, you rent Harbor Yards, where the Bluefish play, you pay $2,500, you invite a bunch of college coaches in, and you get 300 kids that are paying $400 a piece for a 2-day weekend, or even sometimes a 1-day event. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Sure.
Number one, a lot of those college coaches, they are going there, they have 1 or 2 players specifically targeted. Number one. Number two, I'm the most liberal guy in the world, but if I start to get above 20, 30 players and they all start becoming John Smith,
Right.
you know, it's very hard to differentiate those small those small differences. And what I tell kids is really they have to find a way to find an appropriate program for them and get in front of that coach and
Sure.
go through an interviewing process with that coach.
The showcases, you can pretty much evaluate a player's tools, whether it's, you know, who has arm strength, who can run, who can hit, who has power. And then from there, then you've got to kind of fill in some gaps and find out, okay, you see a player with arm strength in the outfield, all right, can he hit now? And so certain college programs are looking to fill in, let's say college might have a need in center field and maybe shortstop, so they're looking for guys that have the tools to fill in, you know, a spot at one of those positions. With the major league clubs, it's basically the raw tools that we're looking for, guys that have power, have speed, have arm strength. And then we have kind of evaluate them from there. So a lot of guys can get on the map of teams through showcases by arm strength is important, power is important. Power sometimes doesn't play out, but generally arm strength is important defensively and at most of the positions. And obviously if you can hit, you can get into any lineup. That happens sometimes where a guy might not, you know, have the speed to play center field or the arm strength to play shortstop or third base, or maybe, you know, their bat is a little bit light, so that's going to take them out of a power position.
This is a big one, power potential. What I see oftentimes at the youth level is, I know you're going to agree with me, is there will be a big strong kid and he'll go 0 for 30 and then he'll hit a 500-foot home run, and everybody goes, oh my God, that's the guy. And you know, I don't think that people realize that really at the upper levels is that, yes, obviously power, but power, you know, for most people is one of the last things to develop.
Right. You know, there's raw power, and then there's, you know, how is it going to play out into home run power? So sometimes you have guys that have raw power and grade really high on the raw power, but it just doesn't translate out to the home run power. And then you have guys on the other end of it that maybe aren't as strong, but, you know, generate some bat speed,
right,
and you know, or do some things to generate power. So it's hard to project that.
I remember they just as an example is they poo-poo Joe Mauer, you know, who's just a phenomenal hitter. But they go, well, he doesn't have any power. I go, holy mackerel. I mean, you know, it's silliness.
Right. Because you want players that are going to get better and max out their potential. You know, and some guys maybe are a little bit light ability-wise, but they max out what they have and they utilize their strengths. And then other guys don't. They might have a little bit more talent, but for whatever reason, maybe their plate discipline isn't that good, or maybe in the outfield they struggle to get reads on balls that are hit, or maybe have some arm strength, but it might not be functional arm strength to, throw it through a cutoff guy or that sort of thing.
The last time you and I talked, you said something very, very interesting also relative to the pro game, is you said that sometimes you evaluate, and it goes back to that projection and development issue, is you evaluate players and you say, you understand that this player is, and he may be a star, but he's not going to, and it goes back to that discussion about level, he's not going to, he doesn't project to the next level.
Right.
Do you see that often, or it's certainly something you see?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, like, we'll just say, this is where we see this player's ceiling. And so that's why sometimes guys fall through the cracks, and they just don't, or sometimes guys, max out, early, some guys don't.
A big thing that I want to perhaps end on is, and I want to be honest, there are standards, but again, I want to keep thumping on this. I want to keep thumping on a couple things which I don't think is portrayed accurately at the youth, especially at the youth level, is that, and that's why because I know that you'll tell the truth about this, is projection,
right,
development, instinct, work ethic. These are all huge, and
sure.
These are not. I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not a goody two-shoes just jumping on this. These are things that really are important at the professional level. Is that correct?
Sure. It's all part of the evaluation, and it's more than just the tools, because anybody can go out there and evaluate the tools, but you're trying to dig in a little bit and find out more about players' makeup, and are they competitive? Are they going to improve? There's always guys out there that'll kind of beat the odds, and where it's tough to measure their desire or their will or their work ethic, but it'll just push through any barriers that people might put up there.
I can think of Brett Butler. I've read that he never started in high school. Eric Bedard was at Norwalk Community College, JUCO.
Yep.
Right? He's making a lot of money pitching in the big leagues. Everybody knows about Piazza, Don Mattingly. All these guys are guys that developed and worked hard. What I'm trying to get across is these are realities at the professional level. They're realities at the college level, and they need to be made into realities at the youth level, where 85% of this goes on. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can make yourself into, if you have some degree of talent and the desire to go with it, you can really, max out and improve a lot and probably achieve more than most players think they're capable of achieving. It's like an athlete that's able to, get by just on their athleticism or their strength, or let's say you take a little league pitcher who's able to get by on his arm strength, and but then as he gets older, maybe can't command the breaking pitch or can't command his fastball, or his mechanics are such that he's going to overcompensate. So some of those guys peak out early because they're relying too much on their, on a physical tool or that sort of thing.
I think what we'll do is we'll end on that.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and we'll do individual things on some of this stuff. Dave is also got a independent showcase coming up, which I hope that we get this out before that, which we're going to cover with this as well. So we'll end on that, and we'll do some more stuff with Dave along the way. Okay? Thanks very much.